Good morning. Today we are going to start the first paper, Indian Writing in English Literature. Let's start with Indian Writing in English. The greatest gift of the British Raj to the Indian subcontinent was probably the English language and its rich, varied literature. During the British regime, Indians had to learn the language for the purpose of education as well as to earn their livelihood by securing a government job. The Indian intelligentsia and men of letters who had sufficient mastery over the language thought differently. They tried their hand at poetry, prose and fiction. It was a unique combination. The Indian literatures describing their environs and social milieu in a strange language and belonged to a faraway land. As part of the Indians' interactions with the Europeans and the British, individuals from the affluent classes went abroad for their education, married foreign women, spoke English better than their mother tongues, lived in and toured the continent several times. Their progeny enjoyed tremendous advantages both in terms of exposure and language skills. Then we are going to speak about the writers in Indian writing in English. Neeraj C. Chowdhury. Neeraj C. Chowdhury devoted his life to study India's relationship with Britain. Chowdhury gained critical acclaim and was one of the most successful writers of Indian origin in English. Then R.K. Narayan, 1906 to 2001. This patriarch of Indian literature in English highlighted the imaginary little town of Malgudi, a microcosm of life in southern India during the early 20th century. Mulk Raj Anand, 1905 to 2004. Hailed as the Munshi Premchand of Indian English writing, vividly and powerfully depicts the sordid lives of the lowest strata of the society in his novels, Coolie, The Untouchable, etc. Kamala Markandeya, 1924 to 2004, is best remembered for her novel Nectar in a Sieve, published in early 1950s. It is a touching account of the life of an Indian peasant woman, Rukmani, her struggle for survival and her abiding love for her husband. Nayanthara Sehgal, from the famous Nehru clan, is a feminist writer advocating women's emancipation. Anida Desai. Anida Desai's works appearing in the 1960s are aptly classified under post-colonial literature. Published more than a decade after Markandeya, her Voices of the City is a story about three siblings and their divergent viewpoints on life in Calcutta. Fire on Mountain, set in Kasauli, focuses on three women and their complex experiences in life. V.S. Naipaul, a writer of Indian descent, started writing prolifically, eventually bagging a novel years later for his literary masterpieces. Shashi Deshpande. Shashi Deshpande hails from Karnataka. A journalist by profession, she started at a very early age, publishing her first short story in 1970. To start with, her stories were published in magazines like Femina, Eve's Weekly, etc. Legacy, her first collection of short stories, was published in 1978. Bharati Mukherjee. Bharati Mukherjee, who describes herself as an American of Bengali Indian origin, too falls in this cadre. She deals with the theme of the Asian immigrants in North America and the change taking place in South Asian women in a new world. Geeta Mehta. Geeta Mehta based her creative writing on the theme of the country's struggle for freedom and finally the achievement of the freedom, as is evident in Snakes and Ladders, Karma Kola, and many more. Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie, one of the numerous Midnight's children, has suitably captured this epoch-making incident in his novel Midnight's Children. Uma Vasudev. Uma Vasudev joined the bandwagon of non-fictional writers with her 3 exhaustive biographies of Srimati Indira Gandhi, Courage Under Fire, Revolution in Restraint, and 2 Faces of Indira Gandhi. Then Vikram Seth, whose famous novels include The Golden Gate, A Suitable Boy, and Equal Mystic. Manchula Padmanabhan. Manchula Padmanabhan is an author, playwright, and artist. Her books include Hot Death, Cold Soup, a collection of short stories, and Getting There, a travel memoir. Harvest, her 5th play, won first prize in the 1997 Onassis Prize for Theatre. Geeta Hariharan. Geeta Hariharan is a journalist by profession and based in New Delhi. Her first book, The Thousand Faces of Night, won the Commonwealth Prize for the best first novel. Amitav Ghosh. Amitav Ghosh demonstrates the blend nature of diverse cultures in his writings. Ghosh has already bagged several prestigious awards for his works. Some of these awards are Prix Medix Stranger for The Circle of Reason, the Sahitya Academy Award for The Shadow Lines, the Arthur C. Clarke Prize for Science Fiction for The Calcutta Crimson, the Pushcart Prize for his essay, The March of the Novel Through History, My Father's Bookcase. Then Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Shashi Tharoor is the celebrated award-winning author of several novels as well as hundreds of articles in reputed international publications like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, the International Herald Tribune, Time, Newsweek, and the Times of India. His most famous work is the Great Indian Novel, which is included in various curricula as a fine example of post-colonial literature. Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. Chitra Banerjee's works are partly autobiographical, with most plots set in a Bay Area of California. She also deals with the immigrant experience, an important issue in the contemporary world. Ubhamanyu Chatterjee. Ubhamanyu Chatterjee made his debut on the Indian literary scenario with his novel English August, an Indian story centering on the bizarre experiences of a young IAS officer who is sent to the remote, nondescript town of Matna for training. The language is colloquial Indian English with generous dosages of English. Pico Iyer. He based in the UK and the USA, is one of the most revered and respected travel writers today. His essays, reviews, and other writings have appeared in Time, Condé Nast Traveler, Harper's, The New Yorker, Sports Illustrated, and Saloon.com. Arundhati Roy. Arundhati Roy, whose God of Small Things fetched her the prestigious Booker, probes deep into the obscure, insignificant, inconsequential things in our mundane world. Jhumpa Lahiri. Jhumpa Lahiri, the Bostonian, is a true blue Bengali. In spite of having lived all her life in the UK and the USA, She knows the subtle menaces of typical Bengali life and culture like the back of her hand. Kiran Desai. Kiran Desai, currently based in the UK, is the daughter of a celebrated mother, author Anida Desai. Her first novel, Hulabaloo in the Guava Orchard, was published in 1998 and won appreciation from renowned literary figures including Salman Rushdie. It also won the Betty Trask Award presented by the Society of Authors for the best new novels by citizens of Commonwealth of Nations under 35. Her second book, The Inheritance of Laws, published in 2006, has already won wide acclaim throughout Asia, Europe and the United States and won the 2006 Booker Prize. So we already found in detail the famous writers in Indian writing in English. Then we can move to the textbook. The textbook is also an excellent short reader comprising a set of the finest selection from more than a century of eminent Indian literature in English for an connoisseur with a flair for Indian flavor. The first section comprises 6 excellent poems. The second is set apart for thought-provoking prose and fiction, and the third consists of a superb drama. All the works included herein are masterpieces that create a familiar landscape in varying perspectives, different from the exotic Orientalist imagery and myths. Now we are going to start the first poem, Songs of Radha, the Coast, written by the famous writer Sarojini Naidu. I know all of you have heard about Sarojini Naidu. Anyway, let us go through Sarojini Naidu. Sarojini Naidu was born in 1879 and she died in 1949. Sarojini Naidu was born in a family of highly gifted intellectuals in Victorian British India. Her father, Dr. Agornath Chattopadhyay, was an upper caste Brahmin and brilliant scientist trained in England, and was a highly respected official at the court of the Nizam of Hyderabad. Her mother, Varadasundari Devi, was a highly sensitive girl from romantic East Bengal, something of a poetess herself. Thus the house in Hyderabad, where Sarojini was born and brought up, was a confluence of 3 cultures: the traditional Hindu, the medieval Muslim and the scientific Western. She was a bright child and started writing poetry at the age of 11. She went to England for higher studies in 1895 to 98. She was influenced by Gopalakrishna Gokhale. Her titles of the poems are very interesting: The Golden Threshold, Palanquin Bearers, Indian Weavers, where she came in contact with the eminent English men of letters, Edmund Gosse and Arthur Symons. 1898 to 1914, the golden years of her poetic output. The Golden Threshold, published in 1905, was followed by The Bird of Time in 1912, and in 1914 she was elected a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature. Collected poems, all of which she wrote in English, have been published under the titles The Skeptant Flute in 1928 and The Feather of the Dawn, which was published in 1961. In 1914, she met Mahatma Gandhi and was completely under his spell ever since. That brought her into the center of the national movement for Indian independence. She was the leading light of all the great political movements of Gandhi ever. Beside him, and a sparkling flame inspiring her generation of the Indian National Congress led by Jawaharlal Nehru. She rose to be the first woman president of Indian National Congress in 1925. Later, the first woman governor of a state in independent India. She was the first governor of Uttar Pradesh, the largest state of India, in 1947 to 49. She was a polyglot. Polyglot means known and using several languages. So she was a polyglot. She used English, Urdu, Telugu, Bengali and Persian. Gandhi had given her the unchallenged title of the Nightingale of India. Sarojini became a poet in quiet defiance of her parents' planned career of a mathematician chosen for her. She was packed off to London to nip in the bud a dangerous love for a non-Bengali, non-Brahmin, and welcome as son-in-law in the family. At the age of 15, she fell in love with Dr. Govindrai Naidu, a doctor. But she nursed the passion and returned, a rebel and a pioneer, to marry him against the wishes of the family, and never looked back in regret. She protested before her British mentors that she had only the vision and desire, but not the voice of a poet. But she carved a corner for herself as a poet that could well be the envy of the mentors. In the final analysis, Sarojini Naidu is not rated as a front-rank poet or a front-rank politician by historians of modern India. But in both fields, she is a force to reckon with, unquestionably and immortal. So we already found in detail about Sarojini Naidu. Actually, about her poetry, it is intensely emotional and sometimes too passionate. I told you the influence of British romantic poets can be clearly seen in her poetry. Some critics have also expressed the views that She combines in many of her poems the classical Sanskrit aestheticians tradition with the voluptuousness of Persian poetry. She had been engaged in the struggle for independence. That is why Mahatma Gandhi gave the title the Nightingale of India. Some of her other collections of poems are The Sceptered Flute, The Festival of Serpents, and The Flute Player of Vrindavan. Her poetry is essentially lyrical with its musical quality and pleasing rhythm. Besides being a poet, she was one of the prominent leaders of India's struggle for independence. The Feather of the Dawn, published posthumously in 1961 by her daughter Padmaja Naidu. It is a beautiful lyric on the theme of love. So, the Kyost includes in the collection of this poem, The Feather of the Dawn. It is a Kyost of Ganesham by Radha, who looks everywhere in nature for her lover. So we already got the idea clearly about the author Sarojini Naidu. Now we are going to speak about her poem, The Kyost. Songs of Radha, The Kyost. Songs of Radha belongs to her collection of poems, The Feather of Dawn. It was published posthumously in 1961 by her daughter Padmaja Naidu. Then about the poem, The Kyost. It is a beautiful lyric on the theme of love. It is a Kyost for Ganesham by Radha, who looks everywhere in nature for her lover. At last, she gets a revelation from Ganesham himself that he is within herself. He lives in her heart as the divine microcosm. This oneness created by true love is beyond all pleasures of the temporal world. The narrator of the poem Radha, out of her foolish love, yearns for the presence of her lover Krishna. She seeks him all day and everywhere. At dawn, she asks the wind where Kanhaiya has gone. At noon, she inquires the woods if her sweet lover is resting in their friendly shade. At dusk, she requests the tides in the sea to tell her where the flute player is abiding. But neither the wind, nor the woods, nor the ocean gives her any answer, as they do not know where her playmate is to be found. She bows her weeping face upon her palm and prayerfully asks, "Where art thou, my Ganesham?" Then, like a boat that moves violently from top to bottom in a storm, her heart was shaken with a hidden laughter of her dear one. Her lover was mocking her with his playful malice. This seemed to her like bubbling nectar from her own heart, and she enjoyed it. Then her dear lover said to her, "Faithless one, full of doubt, why do you seek me outside? Why do you ask the wind, the ocean, or the valley about my presence? Don't you know the secret that I dwell in you? I am yours as you are mine. A part of me is in you as part of you is in me. You look for me in the mirror your heart and you will see me. the main theme of the poem, Songs of Radha the Coaster. I already told you it is contained in the Feather of Dawn. It is published posthumously in 1961 by her daughter. So we can also say this poem is a beautiful lyric poem on the theme of love. It is a curse for Ghanshyam by Radha, who looks everywhere in nature for her lover. Ultimately, upon a divine revelation from Ghanshyam himself, Radha discovers that he is within herself. The mystic garden is discovered within the human heart as the divine microcosm. The oneness created by true love is beyond the temporal world and its transient phrases. So we went through Sarojini Naidu in detail, and we also understood the background of the poem Songs of Radha the Quest. We already discussed the theme and summary of the poem. Then we can move to the poem in detail. Okay, are you ready? Take the page number 4 in your textbook. Songs of Radha the Quest. My foolish love went seeking thee at dawn, crying, O wind, where is Kanhaiya gone? I questioned at noonrise the forest glade. Rest my sweet lover in thy friendly shade. At dusk I pleaded with the dove grey tides. Oh, tell me where my flute player abides. So the first two lines. My foolish love went seeking thee at dawn, crying, O wind, where is Kanhaiya gone? Thee means you. Kanhaiya means Krishna, Lord Krishna. She is using many names to call Krishna. Ghanshyam, Kanhaiya, like that. My foolish love went seeking thee at dawn. Dawn means early morning. She started to seek her love. Who is her love? Yes, Lord Krishna. So she started to seek her love at early morning, crying, O wind, where is Kanhaiya gone? She is asking to wind, where is my Kanhaiya gone? So here we can see that Radha is searching for her beloved. Radha is searching for her beloved Lord Krishna. She asked the wind about him. In the dawn, in the early morning, she asked to the wind, where is my Kanhaiya? Where is my Krishna? I questioned at noonrise the forest glade. Restest my sweet lover in thy friendly shade. So the next lines, she speaks about the afternoon. From that we can identify she didn't get the answer from the wind. Radha asks in the early morning to the wind, where is my Kanhaiya? Where is my lover? Where is my Lord Krishna? But she didn't get the answer from the wind. So she asked to the forest glade. In the, then we can see that at the moment she Even at the moment also she didn't get the answer, and she repeated the same question at afternoon to the forest glade. Glade means an open place in the forest. First she asked to the wind, where is her lover, where is her Kanhaiya, in the early morning, in the dawn. She didn't get the answer. So at the afternoon she asked the same question to the forest glade. She asked the forest glade, where is my Kanhaiya, yes my sweet lover, in thy friendly shade. Then she asked to the forest glade, my sweet lover Kanhaiya is taking rest in your friendly shade. Have you seen my sweet lover? Is he taking rest in the friendly shade of that forest glade? You know, she didn't get the answer from the forest glade. At dusk, I pleaded with the dove-grey tides. Oh, tell me where my flute player abides. Then again the time passed. Then we can see that even at the time of dusk, dusk means late in the evening. So at dusk she repeats the same question. To whom? To the dove-grey tides. Tides means waves. So she repeats the question to the dove-grey tides. Oh, tell me where my flute player abides. Abides means dwells. So she repeated the question, but she used another name, flute player. First she used the name Kanhaiya. Secondly she used the sweet lover. Then here she used the flute player. So she repeats the same question at dusk to the dove-grey tides. Tell me where is my flute player dwells. Do you have any idea about my flute player? So we can see that Radha, she is searching for her lover from the early morning. She asked to the wind, where is my Kanhaiya gone? She didn't get the answer. She continues her searching for her lover. Then at the afternoon she repeats the question to the forest glade. She is asking, where is my sweet lover? Is he taking rest in your friendly shade? In the friendly shade of the forest glade. Then again she repeats the same question at the dawn. At the dusk. Dusk means late in the evening. She asks the question to the dove-grey tides. Where is my flute player dwells? Even she starts her searching for Krishna from the dawn to dusk. She didn't get any answer about her lover, her flute player, about her Kanhaiya. Dumb were the waters, dumb the woods, the wind. They knew not where my playfellow to find. All became silent at that moment. They don't have an idea about where is her Kanhaiya, where is her lover. So it became silent. Waters, woods, the wind. because they don't have any idea then how they can give the answer. So even she repeats the question to wind, forest and tides. They don't have any idea about Kanhaiya, so they kept silent. They didn't give the answer. Waters, woods and wind. They don't have an idea about where is Kanhaiya. So she fails to find out her sweet lover. I bowed my weeping face upon my palm. Morning, oh where are thou, my Ghanshyam? So she became upset at that moment because she tired. Even we identified, she started her searching from the dawn to dusk. She didn't get any idea about her sweet lover. Then finally she started to weep. She started to weeping face. She started to bow her weeping face upon her palm. Where are you, my Ghanshyam? So she used many names to call her lover: sweet lover, flute player, Ghanshyam, Kanhaiya and playfellow. She searched very seriously for her lover, but she didn't get the answer from wind, forest glade and tide, because they don't know where is her Ghanshyam. So I think all of you understood the details of Sarojini Naidu and her poem Songs of Radha the Quest. We just discussed the first few lines from the poem Songs of Radha the Quest. So I hope we can continue the rest of the lines in the next class. Thank you.